Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hello, my name is Michelle Powell, and I'm a graduate student in the Early Childhood Education Program at Northern Arizona University. And today my topic is on early childhood special education. And my guest is Patty Kirkland, Program Coordinator for Early Head Start and former Director of Deer Valley Head Start. Good afternoon, Patty.
Hello.
I'd like to start by asking you to just share a little bit of your background in early childhood special education.
I was a classroom teacher for 7 years. I am certified as an early childhood special education teacher with the state of Arizona. I have a degree in administration and a degree in elementary education. I was a supervisor in the Deer Valley School District overseeing the special education for preschool for 5 years, and then I became the director for Head Start and continue to oversee the preschool, the developmental preschool.
Wow, a lot of good background and experience. Thank you. My questions today, Patty, will focus on your experience in early childhood with Head Start and other programs that you've worked with. And I'll start by asking you a question about high-quality teachers. As educators, we recognize that teacher quality has major impact on overall student achievement. To ensure that all students have the opportunity to reach their fullest potential, they need to be taught by highly qualified and effective teachers. In your programs, what type of preparation is required for early childhood special education teachers to be considered high quality?
Well, it's a state certification which came about in July 1st of 2012, and I think it's one of the best things the state of Arizona has done, because it does ensure that children are receiving a high quality education with a teacher that has the knowledge. So a teacher needs to have an early childhood special education, either endorsement or certificate, and they have to have some special ed background. So that means that they can have a degree in cross-categorical or mild mentally retarded, something like that as far as special education background.
Okay, very good. According to Arizona Find, which of course you know is a component of the Individuals with Disability Act of 2004, states are required to locate, identify, and evaluate all children with disabilities ages birth to 21 who are in need of early intervention or special education services. How did your program identify and locate children with disabilities, and how many of those children were served in your programs?
Funny you should ask. That was also one of my responsibilities in the district, was to oversee Child Find. Each district has the ability to proceed with Child Find as they see, based on the needs of the community, as I see fit. The district that I worked in would do advertising in the newspaper. It was put on newsletters that would go home through the schools, on the back of the lunch menu. It was on the website, and word of mouth, of course, is always the best advertising. So what we would do is parents call the school district. The school district has 45 days in which to screen the child. Once the screening is completed, the school district has 10 days in which to notify the parent of any areas where further evaluation is needed, and then that evaluation takes place, and then of course the districts follow the timelines for the evaluation, and then the IEP if that is appropriate. And then the children are placed in the classroom, again based on their needs. Not all children that qualify for special education preschool are placed in a classroom. Some may receive campus-based speech services only.
Okay.
And that goes back to least restrictive environment, because we need to look at educating children with typically developing peers as much as possible. Within the preschool classrooms, the majority of the students had an identified disability, but there was also typical peers in the classroom.
Okay.
The state mandate is that 50% of the children be identified with a special need, and 50% are typically developing. And the district that I was in, that was one of our focuses, was to work towards that for all of our classrooms.
Oh, wonderful. Right. So typically, how many children would be in a classroom? How many children overall would be in, say, like a Head Start classroom? And then of those children, what would be the number of those children that came in as exceptional students?
In Head Start, it was 20 students per class.
Okay.
And out of the total number of enrolled for the district, 10% needed to be identified with special education need.
Okay.
Because I wore both hats in Deer Valley School District, I was able to adequately put more than 10% of our children into Head Start, because it's a great opportunity for children. Children learn best from other children, and being in that general education classroom, was the best benefit for those students. So on average, we would have anywhere from 17 to 22% of our Head Start children with an identified need.
Okay, great. We're very lucky to have you oversee that program. Teachers today, Patty, face numerous challenges in the classroom, such as how to reach out effectively to students who span the spectrum of learning readiness, personal interests, culturally shaped ways of seeing and speaking of the world, and experiences in that world. Differentiating instruction is one way to make learning engaging and meaningful to students, and helps to create an inclusive learning environment. With that in mind, how do teachers in your programs accommodate the different learning styles and level of readiness of the children they serve, and what did that classroom look like?
Well, first off, all of the preschool classrooms, the developmental preschool classrooms, were considered cross-categorical, meaning that the children in the classroom had a variety of abilities and disabilities. So some children might be in there for speech only or language-related services, where other children could have autism and are receiving speech, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. Based on that, the teachers then would base the activities on the children's IEP goals. Many of the children have similar IEP goals, so it was pretty easy to come up with activities and lessons that would encompass more than one child. Sometimes, though, there were children that had unique needs, and those children would receive individual assistance depending on whatever their need was. The one thing is, teachers are taught through their coursework differentiated instruction. That's now kind of called universal design learning. And also, all of the teachers, in order to be highly qualified, have to have the SEI courses, the Structured English Immersion. And that is really based on special education and individualizing, because some of our children not only have special education needs, but they also are monolingual in a language other than English, which just makes it that much more difficult, I guess, for the child especially. So that's where there's a lot of nonverbal things that happen.
Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about assessments. In order to assess children's development and growth, teachers need to continually monitor the progress of each child to assess their current skill level and to ensure they are receiving instruction that targets their specific needs, as you mentioned. In your classroom, how were children, specifically those on IEPs, monitored and their skill level assessed?
The classrooms that I oversaw had adopted Teaching Strategies Gold, which is the state mandated assessment. That is a tool that identifies children as a whole, as a classroom, and then it also identifies children individually. It was a great way to identify students, their needs, and be able to base lessons on what their needs were. That assessment tool also provides a report for parents that has follow-up activities that can be done at home. The one thing that we really looked for is an assessment tool. So many of the children that have special education needs don't make significant progress on a tool. So they make small steps and they make progress, but it's not enough to go to the next level. Whereas Teaching Strategies Gold, even the small increments are captured. And the report that teachers can put out to parents is identifying where the students currently are functioning their skill level, what the next steps are, and some activities, instead of identifying them below average or average, which really does help, because some students really do have significant needs.
great. Sounds like a great tool.
Mhm.
Okay. Research shows that the learning environment has a powerful influence on children's achievements. Pre-kindergartners are active learners who learn through music, movement, hands-on activities, and they need a balance between indoor and outdoor time, quiet time, and active time. With that in mind, what would a typical day look like in one of your classrooms?
Usually, well, considering it's a 2.5-hour day, there was roughly 7 transitions during that time. There's a lot of things that need to be captured within that small time frame in order for children to be successful. Also, too, because they're 3 to 5 years old, their attention span is not that long, so activities need to be moving kind of quickly. Most of the teachers that I had with me usually started the classroom out on the playground.
Okay.
And there's a couple reasons for that, because number one, those children that need to kind of run and get that energy, brought down to a classroom level could expend that energy, but then sometimes kids don't come to school right on time, the bus might be late or parents are running late, and then that way they haven't missed any part of their day.
Oh, okay.
They would come in off the playground, and of course there's lots of transitional types of activities, putting your backpack up, going to wash your hands, and then going to circle, and kids learn the routines really, really quick. So then there's a short circle, usually 10 to 15 minutes long, finding out who's in attendance that day, possibly talking about what the activities are going to be for the day. And then from there, usually they would have a work time. Now, a lot of people think that that looks like playtime, but as we know in early education, that's a significant time for children because they are learning all types of different skills, especially socialization, functioning in a group, working with other children, sharing. That would be a good portion of the day, at least 45 minutes to an hour. And then after that, it would be some type of small group activity for about 10 minutes where children might be at a table or on the floor working on a specific concept. Snack was a huge part. Children love snack. And again, snack, there's a lot of different activities that they're learning and incorporating skills into that. And then usually a closing circle, and then they would go home.
All right. Wow. Busy day. You wouldn't think they would get so much into one day. Good. Well, I want to end our conversation with family involvement. Early childhood educators have traditionally encouraged parent involvement. Now we are transitioning towards including the whole family. And significant research over at least 25 years has demonstrated that family involvement is critical to the educational success of children. In looking at this transition, what opportunities were available in your program for family involvement?
Well, number one, especially children that have IEPs, parents are brought to the table to help develop that document. I always reminded the teachers that parents were the child's first teacher, and they do know their children best. So input from the parent into the child's IEP was crucial because it gave us a lot of information, especially about likes and dislikes or what their ability or skill level is. And then parents were encouraged to come into the classroom to volunteer, to be part of the class, especially during holiday times if there was any type of celebration or whatever going on. But parents were always encouraged to come into the classroom and be part of their child's education. And of course, with an IEP, it has to be reviewed annually. So parents have that ability to give that input.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much, Patty, for sharing your vast knowledge and experience in early childhood special education. I really appreciate it.
You're quite welcome.